Hello there, my fellow garden dreamers. If you're anything like me, you've looked at an old ladder or a chipped teacup and thought, this still has a story to tell. In today's gentle journey, we're not just adding charm, we're breathing new life into the forgotten. These 15 rustic garden ideas will turn worn and weathered into worn and wonderful. And trust me, idea number 14, it begins with an old door, but opens into something magical. So stay with me till the end. I promise, there are treasures here you've likely never seen before. Welcome to Golden Seniors Living, a place where age is a blessing, stories bloom, and even the simplest touch can turn a garden into something sacred. If soulful makeovers and peaceful inspiration speak to your heart, go ahead and subscribe. There's always more beauty waiting just around the bend. All right, let's step into the garden and explore 15 rustic treasures, each one a quiet masterpiece waiting to bloom. One turn old chairs into planter thrones. Let's begin with something simple, something nearly all of us have tucked away in the shed or at the back of the garage. An old wooden chair. Maybe the seat's cracked, the paint's chipped, or one leg wobbles just a little more than it should. But to us garden lovers, that's not a flaw. It's character. Here's what you do. Take that chair, give it a gentle cleaning. No need to sand off the age. We want that rustic charm. Carefully cut out the seat or remove the cushion if it's still there. What you'll have is a natural cradle for something new. A home for a terracotta pot. Drop in a potted herb, a nest of petunias, or even a cluster of succulents. You can place it beside a bench, under a tree, or right at the garden gate, where it can welcome guests like royalty. That humble chair becomes a planter throne, upright, elegant, and full of life. And here's the beauty of it. It brings vertical interest to your garden without the need for digging, bending, or lifting heavy containers. It's gardening made graceful, perfect for anyone who wants impact without effort. Want to make it even more personal? Paint a word across the chair's backrest. Grow, hope, or maybe even your grandchild's name. Add some twine around the legs, or let ivy curl around the base. Because when you give something forgotten a new purpose, your garden doesn't just look beautiful, it feels alive. That old chair? It's no longer discarded furniture. It's a throne where blooms reign and stories linger. A weathered seat can still hold blooming dreams, and in your garden it just might become the most photographed spot of all. 2. Stone stack plant towers. Now, let's ground ourselves in something timeless. Stone. Smooth river stones, flat rocks, or even those odd pieces you've gathered over the years. They hold a quiet kind of beauty, don't they? There's something about stacking stones that feels almost meditative. No hammer, no nails, just your hands, your intuition, and a bit of balance. Start with a wide, sturdy rock as your base. This will anchor your creation. Then gently place a terracotta pot on top, filled with mint, thyme, or even a cascading flower like lobelia. Now place a flat stone atop that pot. Steady it like you're placing a thought carefully into the world. Then add another pot, then another stone. You're building a totem of nature, one layer at a time. The result is a vertical garden sculpture that feels ancient and artistic all at once. A plant tower that draws the eye upward and invites conversation. It dances with the wind, and as the sun shifts, shadows play along its edges. This idea is perfect for corners that need a little lift, or for narrow spaces where horizontal planting just isn't an option. And for those of us with a little less bend in our knees these days, this kind of vertical design brings the garden closer to our gaze. You can personalize each layer. Culinary herbs in one, bright marigolds in the next, maybe some sweet-smelling alyssum on top. Add a drift of moss between the rocks for texture, or tuck in fairy lights for gentle evening glow. And here's a small truth I've learned. Each stone in the stack feels like a pause, a moment where the world slows just enough for you to breathe. Each one becomes part of the rhythm of your space, a kind of heartbeat in the garden. Because in a garden like yours, no piece is too simple to matter, and no stone is ever just a stone. Is a pause in nature's rhythm. 3. Create wall of wonder. Let's talk about walls. Those plain, wooden, sometimes forgotten fences that frame our gardens. Often they sit quietly, offering structure but not much soul. But what if I told you even a wall can bloom? Enter the humble wooden crate. Maybe you've got a few from old deliveries, fruit markets, or tucked away in the garage, sturdy, aged, full of charm, and perfect for this next transformation. Take 1, 2, or even 5 crates and mount them to your fence in a playful pattern, some horizontal, some vertical. Think of them like open bookshelves, waiting to tell a new story. Once they're secure, the real magic begins. Fill one with a trailing vine like sweet potato vine or ivy, and let it cascade over the edges like a green waterfall. In another, tuck in a mason jar filled with fresh-picked flowers or solar fairy lights. Maybe use one for books. Wrapped in jute twine, weathered by time, no longer for reading but for remembering. These crates create depth, texture, and possibility. They let your garden rise up, not just out. They invite you to layer, to decorate, not just the ground, but the air above it. And the best part? You can change them with the seasons. In spring, plant pansies and herbs. In summer, lean into lanterns and citronella candles. Come fall, fill them with mini pumpkins, pine cones, or dried lavender tied in bunches. This is gardening that invites creativity without complication. You don't need a carpenter's skill or a designer's budget. Just a few crates, a handful of screws, and your imagination. Because every wall, no matter how plain, holds the potential to become something more. A canvas, a stage, a story. Even a wall can bloom. 4. Galvanized bucket fountain. Sometimes, what a garden needs isn't more color or more blooms, but more calm, a moment of stillness, a sound that soothes rather than startles. And that's where this next idea truly shines. Take an old galvanized bucket, the kind once used for hauling water, feed, or gathering apples in the fall. Maybe it's dented. Maybe a little rust hugs the edges. That's okay. In fact, that's what gives it charm. Now, place it where the sun touches gently, perhaps near a bench, under a rose arch, or by your front step. Add a simple solar water pump. Easy to find, easy to use. No cords, no plumbing. Just the sun, doing its quiet work. Fill the bucket with water and drop in the pump. Add smooth pebbles for grounding, a few floating flowers for grace, maybe camellias, rose petals, or even lily leaves. And then you wait. Within seconds you'll hear it. The soft trickle, the delicate bubbling, like a whisper between the leaves. It's not loud, it's not showy, it doesn't compete with the birdsong, it simply joins it. This bucket fountain doesn't just decorate your space, it transforms the mood of it. It draws in butterflies. It invites you to sit, to breathe, to pause. And if you garden with grandchildren or friends, you'll see it quickly becomes a gathering spot, a place to dip fingers in cool water, to wonder how it works, to feel connected to something ancient and elemental. Want to make it more rustic? Wrap jute around the handles. Place a second, smaller bucket nearby with river rocks or moss to create a little vignette. Or let a climbing plant trail gently behind it so it looks as though the garden is reaching for the water too. Because when it comes to beauty, your garden doesn't need to shout. Let your garden whisper. 5. Vintage mirror garden frame. Sometimes in the garden we find beauty not in what something shows us, but in what it helps us grow. And that's exactly the spirit behind this next rustic idea. One that begins with a forgotten mirror. Maybe it's an old frame you once hung in a hallway, or a piece you picked up at a yard sale years ago. The kind with flaking paint, carved edges, and just enough wear to tell a story. You don't even need the glass anymore. In fact, it's better without it. Begin by cleaning the frame gently, but don't cover up the distress. That's part of the soul. Now, flip it over and staple a piece of chicken wire across the back, pulled tight. Behind that, add a layer of natural moss, enough to hold small roots. You're creating a living canvas. Now the fun begins. Tuck in succulents, one by one. Little rosettes of echeveria, strings of pearls, or baby hens and chicks nestled into the moss. Held by the wire, they begin to climb, and the frame begins to come alive. What once reflected your face now reflects your care, growth, transformation, and gentle change. Hang it against a garden wall, or lean it on a small easel in a quiet corner. Let morning dew catch on its edges. Let it evolve with the seasons. It doesn't need watering every day, just attention now and then, like all things we love. This rustic piece invites a pause, a second glance. It's not just decoration, it's declaration. That beauty lives in layers, in reuse, in rebirth. And if someone asks what it is, tell them it's not a mirror anymore. It's a memory wall, a reminder that life, like succulents, grows best with patience and light. A reflection not of self, but of growth. 6. Basket planters on hooks. Some garden pieces are meant to stay rooted, while others, they're meant to dance. This next idea is one of the simplest ways to bring movement, texture, and that soft rustic charm into your space. Take a collection of old wicker baskets, the kind once used for gathering eggs, fruit, or Sunday plumes from the market. You might already have a few tucked away. Look for the ones with character, a frayed edge, faded weave, maybe even a little sun bleach from years past. Now pair them with shepherd's hooks, those graceful metal stakes that curve at the top like an old staff. Place the hooks wherever your garden needs a lift, beside a bench, at the edge of a path, or lining the front of a flower bed. Gently hang a basket from each hook, and inside, nestle in a plastic liner or small container to hold soil and moisture. Then add your plants. Trailing petunias, cheerful pansies, lavender, or sweet alyssum. As the wind flows through, these basket planters will sway gently, catching light, casting shadows, offering movement where there once was stillness. And here's the beauty of it. They're not permanent. You can swap the baskets as the seasons change. Fill them with herbs in spring, sun-loving blooms in summer, dried flowers and pine cones in autumn, even tiny evergreens in winter. For seniors especially, this is a joy. No digging, no bending, and everything is within reach. You don't need a large space or raised beds, just a few hooks, a few baskets, and a little imagination. Let them become your movable gallery, your ever-changing display. And when you walk by, you'll notice the blooms don't just sit there. They move with you. They respond. They remember. Let your blooms sway with the breeze of memory. 7. Brick path of memories. Gardens are places where things grow, but they're also where we remember. The quiet corners, the sunny spots, they hold more than plants. They hold pieces of our story. And this next idea makes that beautifully, tangibly clear. Let's start with old bricks, the kind you might have saved from a past project, or the ones found buried beneath the ivy near the shed, weathered, chipped, each one a little worn by time. That's exactly what we want. Now take a simple tool, a chisel, a rotary engraver, or even a permanent waterproof marker, and etch a name, a year, a word, maybe the birth date of a grandchild, the name of someone you miss, a phrase that lifts you. Hope, bloom, still growing. As you collect these marked bricks, begin laying them into a pathway. It can lead through a bed of herbs, around your favorite flower patch, or from the garden gate to your favorite chair beneath the tree. Each brick becomes a stepping stone, not just through space, but through memory. It's not about perfect lines or symmetry. It's about honoring the little chapters of life, one step at a time. And as you walk this path, you'll notice something begins to shift. You'll slow down, you'll pause, maybe you'll run your fingers across a name you haven't said out loud in a while. Maybe you'll smile, remembering the day you planted your first tomato with someone special. You can add to it any time. It's never finished. Just like life, the path unfolds gradually, with room for new moments and gentle nods to the ones already lived. And when someone visits your garden, they'll feel it too, that this is not just a walkway, it's a timeline, softly laid in soil. Every step forward honors a step before. 8 frying pan bird feeder. Some of the most charming garden additions don't come from a nursery or hardware store. They come from the back of your kitchen cupboard. You know the one, with that old cast-iron frying pan that's too heavy, too scratched, maybe a little too loved to let go. Well, now it has one more role to play. Under the open sky, take that pan, give it a gentle scrub, not to erase the years, just to prepare it for new life. Then, with a bit of sturdy chain or thick twine, attach 3 or 4 evenly spaced points around the rim. You can use small drilled holes or wrap the chain around the handle if it still has one. Hang your pan from a tree branch, a pergola beam, or even a shepherd's hook. Make sure it sits level, like a little stage in the air. Then fill it, not with eggs or sizzling bacon, but with birdseed, fresh berries, maybe a slice of orange or two. And just wait. Before long, your quiet pan will begin to sing again, this time with the flutters and chirps of visiting finches, robins, and sparrows. You'll notice how they land softly, how they tilt their heads as if saying, "Thank you," how even nature seems to understand that this pan has earned its place. There's something magical about it, the way metal meant for fire and food becomes a cradle for life and flight, the way something once used daily, then set aside, finds purpose again in such a peaceful way. And if you like, you can add more. A pair of matching pans, staggered at different heights, or surround it with potted herbs that birds love. Lavender, mint, or thyme. The scent, the sound, the sway. It all becomes part of the garden's gentle rhythm, because even kitchen relics, even the old heavy things, deserve one last swing beneath the sky. 9. Watering can. Wind chimes? There's a special kind of poetry in a watering can. Long before there were hoses and sprinklers, it was the trusted tool, carried from kitchen sink to seedling again and again. It knew the weight of water and the joy of giving. And even when it's rusty, dented, long retired, it still holds a kind of grace. So instead of letting it sit forgotten, let's help it sing. Take your old metal watering can, the one with the bent spout or missing rose head. Keep its history, its rust, its charm. Now, gather a few old spoons or forks, perhaps ones that no longer match your kitchen set but still carry a lovely ring when tapped. Drill tiny holes along the base of the can, or thread fishing line through the spout and handle. Suspend each utensil at a slightly different length. When the wind moves, they'll strike gently, creating soft, random music that feels more like memory than melody. Hang it from a strong tree branch or a shepherd's hook in a breezy corner of your garden. As it sways, you'll hear it, the kind of sound that doesn't interrupt but gently reminds. A reminder of every plant you've cared for. Every morning I spent watering in silence, every drop poured from hand to earth. You can personalize it too. Add small charms, old keys, or beads between the chimes. Wrap the handle with jute or ribbon. Let ivy twine up the base, or paint a single word down the side like grace, flow, or nurture. And the next time you sit beneath that tree, coffee in hand, and you hear that soft clinking, know that the wind hasn't forgotten. It remembers every step you've taken in your garden, every little kindness you pour from that can. The wind remembers every drop you've poured. 10. Ladder display stand. Ladders have always stood for reaching, for climbing towards something just out of reach. In younger days, they helped us paint, prune, or hang the curtains just right. But now, that same wooden ladder can offer a new kind of lift. Don't toss it out, even if it's too wobbly to climb. That old wooden frame, with its chipped paint and sun-faded rungs, holds more potential than you think. Simply lean it against a fence, a shed wall, or a sturdy tree trunk. No need to hang or mount it. It's quite lean already, suggests intention. Now, reimagine each rung as a stage, a shelf, a perch. Nestle clay pots along the steps, filled with petunias, trailing vines or soft pansies. Great fairy lights across the sides, letting them twinkle gently as the sun fades. You can even hang garden signs from the sides. Sayings like, "Welcome," "Grow," or something uniquely yours. Let the ladder become a gentle tower of color, of light, of memory. It's vertical gardening with a farmhouse soul. And because it's portable, you can shift it with the seasons, tuck it into a different corner, let the background bloom behind it, or bring it closer to the porch where visitors can admire the little details up close. Then here's something beautiful. Ladders don't need to be tall to make a statement. Even a small stepladder can carry herbs on each tier, or mason jars with wild flowers. Add a tiny wreath at the top, or wrap it with seasonal garlands. Dried oranges in winter, lavender in spring. This simple structure, once meant for roofs and ceilings, now invites us to look up at flowers instead of fixtures, to pause and notice the rise and fall of color in our own backyard. Because a ladder doesn't just lift bodies. 11. Toolhead garden hooks. Some tools work so hard for us, they almost become part of the family. The old rake that cleared every autumn leaf, the pitchfork that turned soil for years, the hand trowel worn smooth by time. And when their handles break or their edges dull, it feels wrong to simply toss them aside. But what if we gave them one more task, not in the soil but on display? Take those old metal tool heads, rake heads, pitchfork tops, even hand cultivators, and clean them up just enough to shine beneath the rust. You're not erasing their past, you're preparing them for their next chapter. Screw them onto a garden wall, a wooden fence, or even a salvaged barn board propped vertically. The tines and prongs instantly become rustic hooks, strong, weatherproof, and full of personality. Now hang your gardening gloves on one, a hand towel or sun hat on another, maybe a small lantern that flickers to life in the evening, casting shadows through the spaces where soil once fell. You can even hang string lights or dried herb bundles for extra charm. It's more than just storage, it's storytelling. Every time you reach for a glove or hang up a tool, you're reconnecting with years of quiet, steady work. And these pieces aren't just practical, they're visual poetry. They remind us that usefulness doesn't end with the first chapter. That with a little imagination, things and people can always serve in new, meaningful ways. You can even take it further. Paint the wooden board a soft sage green or barn red. Add a nameplate at the top, Grandpa's Garden Wall, or the Tool Shed Legacy. Make it yours, because tools, like people, hold memories in their wear. And even when the digging's done, they still have more to give. Once a helper, always a helper, just in new ways. 12. Quite little surprises from faraway friends. These days, it's mostly bills and circulars, quite literally every day, the glorious moments that are missing. My suggestions have helped. As you can imagine, it's quite fresher, although overwhelming. Today was a glad time, listening to their tales. I stood on the steps during the rain. So here's an idea that delivers something fresher. Quite literally. Take an old vintage-style mailbox, the kind with a curved lid, maybe even a red flag still attached. Whether it's from your own front gate or rescued from a flea market, don't repaint it too perfectly. Let the rust, dents, and weather tell their story. Mount it on a wooden post, or screw it into a fence at waist height, wherever it can catch a little sun and a little admiration. Line the inside with landscape fabric or a shallow plastic tray to hold soil. Then gently plant herbs, fragrant, friendly ones like thyme, oregano, lemon balm, or basil. Now comes the charm. Lift the lid, and instead of paper and envelopes, you're greeted with the scent of fresh herbs, alive, thriving, and ready to clip. It's an invitation to pause, to rub a leaf between your fingers and let the aroma carry you somewhere peaceful. It's also wonderfully practical. No bending, no large containers, just a small space transformed into something special. Want to make it even more playful? Paint the side with the words, "Fresh Delivery" or "Open for Fragrance." Let the red flag signal when it's time to harvest. Add small labels for each herb or tuck in a garden journal right inside the box. This little mailbox becomes more than a decor. It becomes a ritual, a moment of delight you get to open, again and again. Because in your garden, you get to choose what's delivered. Deliver freshness, not bills. Enjoying the rustic magic so far? We're just getting started. The next few ideas bring even more warmth. And trust me, the one with the old door, it's like stepping into a forgotten countryside fairy tale with flowers instead of pages, painting each page as the doorway to nowhere trellis. But none quite as enchanting as a door that opens to nowhere and yet somehow to everything. This next idea invites you to step into a little dream, starting with something so simple, an old wooden door. Maybe it's been sitting in your shed for years, maybe it was salvaged from a renovation, or perhaps found leaning lonely at a thrift shop. It doesn't need to be perfect. In fact, the peeling paint, worn knobs, and creaky frame make it even more magical. Find a special spot in your garden, somewhere open with a little sun and a view. Gently anchor the door upright into the soil using stakes or bury the base a few inches deep. You're not building a structure. You're creating a moment. Now here comes the poetry. At the base of the door, plant climbing flowers, morning glories, sweet peas, or clematis. As the days pass, those vines will stretch and twist their way upward, wrapping around the frame as though trying to peek through, wondering what's on the other side. Add a stepping stone path leading up to it, maybe a bench nearby where someone might sit and imagine. Hang a small sign that reads "Welcome" or "Secret Garden." And as the blooms unfold, so does the story, not of walls or ceilings, but of possibility. This doorway to nowhere becomes a focal point, one that asks nothing and offers everything. It's a place where birds perch, bees linger, and thoughts wander. You'll notice visitors stop and smile, children will want to run through it, and you'll glance at it every day and feel something quiet but strong, that beauty doesn't always need a destination. Sometimes it simply stands there, waiting to be noticed. Because even doors with no rooms can open to wonder. 14. Suitcase garden bed. Some containers carry more than belongings. They carry time, travel, and tucked-away stories. And among the most nostalgic of them all is the vintage suitcase. Maybe it once held clothes for a honeymoon, a child's toys for a summer trip, or love letters wrapped in ribbon. Today it holds something new. Life, color, and charm. Find an old suitcase, the kind with leather corners, brass latches, maybe a faded tag from decades ago. It doesn't need to close properly, and scuffs only add to its story. Just make sure the inside is clean and the lining, if still there, is dry. To turn it into a garden bed, first add a few small drainage holes in the bottom. A simple drill will do. Then line it with landscape fabric or a shallow plastic tray to catch excess water. Fill it with light, well-draining soil, perfect for succulents, moss, and other shallow-rooted plants. Now, plant. Let your creativity take over. Arrange rosettes of echeveria, tuck in bursts of sedum, sprinkle bits of creeping thyme. This is your portable garden, a patch of living art, with a suitcase as its stage. Place it on a patio table, a garden bench, or even on a stack of crates at the foot of a tree. It instantly becomes a conversation piece, a little unexpected treasure nestled among the greens. And just like that, the suitcase is traveling again, but this time not across cities or countries, but across seasons, carrying color instead of clothes, holding blooms instead of baggage. You can even take it further, add a small garden sign that says, "Let life unpack," or place tiny trinkets beside the plants, like an old key, a compass, or a miniature book. Let it tell a story in every detail, because when memories spill out of a suitcase, let them bloom. 15. Farm table potting station. Some of the best garden work doesn't happen on the ground. It happens at the table. Not a new table, polished and perfect, but one that's seen a few seasons. And maybe a few stories, too. Think of that old farm table in the garage or the one at the back of the porch. The legs might wobble a bit, the top might be scratched or sun-stained, but beneath all that, it's strong. and it's ready to serve again in a whole new way. Bring that table into your garden space. Position it near your tool shed or under the shade of a wide tree. Suddenly, you've got a rustic potting station, no assembly required. On the tabletop, place your essentials: clay pots stacked like teacups, a bowl of potting soil, a small wooden crate with seed packets, and maybe an old enamel dish to rinse your hands. Hang a few tools from the sides: a trowel, some shears, a spool of twine. All within a workspace. It becomes more than a workspace. It becomes a corner of intention, a place to repot a favorite plant, start new cuttings, or just sip tea while planning what to plant next. You can personalize it too. Add a weathered drawer for storing gloves, hang a chalkboard above it with your garden to-do list, or keep a small tin nearby for seeds you're saving, labeled with handwritten tags and care. And because the table stands at waist height, it's easy on the back. A thoughtful touch for seasoned gardeners who've spent many years bending low to the earth. Here, the work meets you halfway. It's proof that usefulness doesn't age out, that even a scratched, forgotten table still has a role to play in the rhythm of growth and joy. Because in a garden, function and beauty can share the same space, and even scratched tables still serve joy. From rakes and mirrors to ladders, doors, and weathered suitcases, today we've uncovered something quietly powerful: that age doesn't take away beauty, it deepens it. In our golden years, we no longer chase the newest trends or the flashiest fixtures. Instead, we return to what feels honest: a chair that's carried weight, a pan that was once cooked for the family, a brick that remembers footsteps. We've learned that a rustic garden doesn't demand much. Not acres of land, not a pristine catalog look, just intention, a little imagination, and yes, a touch of rust. Because here, every item has lived a life before, and every flower planted within it gives it purpose again. In your garden, time is not something to fear, it's something to use. And every bloom, every gentle creak of old wood, every whisper of wind through repurposed things tells the world, I'm still growing. If even one of these ideas brought a smile to your face, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up. It helps us reach more kindred spirits who still believe in second chances, for objects and for ourselves. Leave us a comment below. Which idea whispered to you? I could do that. Or tell us about a rustic treasure you've rescued and revived in your own garden. And don't forget to subscribe to Golden Seniors Living, where every week we celebrate the beauty of age, the joy of repurposing, and the quiet magic blooming in every corner of your life.